This afternoon's Red Sox game in Minnesota has been postponed because of civil unrest in the area. The Red Sox were supposed to play the Twins at Target Field, but protesters have been clashing with police.
I was front and center at the protest, at the riot. We did not. Okay. There was.
Eating and drinking indoors in restaurants and bars, is that okay now?
No, it's still not okay for the simple reason that the level of infection, the dynamics of infection in the community are still really disturbingly high.
But everybody else is doing it, right, Matt? I mean, all across television, all these anchors are rolling up their sleeves. Why do you think we haven't seen the biggest stars on Fox News get vaccinated or show us their vaccine selfies?
The Symphony of Idiocy is blaring loud. It is in full swing today. I don't even know how this day went sideways. It was about 3 o'clock Eastern time. I was in the Market Basket parking lot when my wife sent me a text saying that the RS would not be playing because of the shooting in Minnesota, and I thought, there's no way that stands for Red Sox. So I texted back and I said, does that stand for Red Sox? She said, yes. And of course there's no game tonight because of a police shooting in Minnesota, in Brooklyn Center, is it called?
Mm-hmm, Brooklyn Center.
Which is just a little north of Minneapolis, where the police, a female police officer, shouted taser at a fleeing suspect and then shot him and killed him, which is friggin' just perfect timing. This idiot, incompetent police officer, and this was a massive F-up, and this ain't good. That kid should be alive right now.
Right.
And this sucks. And, of course, so there's that. It's sheer incompetence by this police officer, this woman, which is what I think so far. It's just for what I see and by the audio where she says, oh, damn, I shot him after she said, taser, 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 taser. She thought she grabbed a taser. She didn't. She grabbed a gun.
Right. And the chief said in the presser that they, in their training, they wear their service weapon on their dominant hand side and the taser on their non-dominant hand side. And so that they never do this. Because obviously, right. And you can see in the video, I actually watched the body cam footage. I don't think you watched the footage. You just heard the audio. But she's holding a gun. She's holding the gun a while. It's not like she just grabs it all of a sudden and grabs the wrong one. She's pointing a gun at him for a good 5 to 10 seconds, yelling taser before she shoots him. And so the level of screw up that this is, this person obviously should not be a police officer. I think that goes without saying. I would assume that there's some kind of manslaughter charges coming. I don't know that this could support a murder charge since I think it's pretty clearly not intentional, but there's only so badly you can screw up before it becomes a manslaughter charge because it's unbelievable that you could screw up that badly.
The guy who shot was named Dante White.
Right, I think.
And graphic taser before gunning off. He was 20 years old. Mm-hmm. I think he had a kid. I'm not sure. The New York Times.
I don't know, but his girlfriend was with him. His girlfriend was with him in the car. He was pulled over with his girlfriend for having an expired car registration. So then when the police pulled him over, they found that there were open warrants for his arrest. I don't know what the warrants were for. It was not because of an air freshener. I don't know why. This story's already bad enough. I don't know why people need to make up new narratives. So when he called his mom on the phone. So he was live on the phone with his mom when this happened.
Dante White was.
Right. Dante White, yes. Right. So
okay. That's a great phone call to have for a mother.
Yeah. So he called his mom and said, they're pulling me over. And apparently they said to him something. He had an air freshener on his rearview mirror, and they said oh, that's illegal, you shouldn't have that. So he said to his mom they pulled me over for an air freshener, but his registration was expired and they had warrants for his arrest. So it's not crazy that they were arresting him. They weren't arresting him for an air freshener. That's not a true narrative. Anyway, so his girlfriend's sitting in the passenger seat. His phone is on with his mom, and They ask him to get out of the car. He gets out of the car initially. They start to handcuff him, and he's saying, I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you arresting me? And they're saying, we have a warrant. And then he's struggling and trying to get back in the car. And at that point, this officer who's holding her gun, pointing her gun at him, says, I'm going to tase you. And he's still struggling. There's two other officers physically getting him. Like, I don't even think it was necessarily needed for him to be tased. There wasn't a gun in the car, according to the police officers. He wasn't like reaching for a knife or something. There's two officers there already overpowering him to get him cuffed. And she says, I'm going to tase you because he's struggling. And then she says, taser, 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 and shoots him kind of into the front seat of the car where he's struggling with them to get back into the car. And at that point, apparently his foot must have hit the gas or something, because at that point, the car sped forward and hit another vehicle that was parked. So, and that's when she's saying, she says,
bleep, yes.
Bleep, and I shot him. And the other officer's like, wait, what happened? And she goes, yeah. She says, yes, I shot him. But how this could happen, this is such a huge unforced error on the part of the cops that it boggles the mind.
Right. So that happened last night. There were riots in the 10 Brooklyn Center. And already we're replaying this thing where the media does not want to hear that there were riots. This is Chief Gannon debriefing the press yesterday.
Your decision to issue a dispersal order while they were peacefully protesting in front of the police station. What led to you to issue a dispersal order, and then on the back end of that 10-minute dispersal order, then to issue out CO2 canisters and gas for the crowd?
So,
can you talk to us about that?
Just so everybody's clear, I was front and center at the protest, at the riot. We did not.
Now they're upset.
There was no riot.
There was. So, the officers that were putting themselves in harm's way were being pelted with frozen cans of pop. They were being pelted with concrete blocks.
Just go with the concrete blocks, Chief. I understand that this is a tense event here, but cans of pop makes for bad copy.
And yes, we had our helmets on, and we had other protection gear, but an officer was injured, hit in the head with a brick. That was a Hennepin County deputy. He was transported to the hospital. So we had to make decisions. We had to disperse the crowd because we can't allow our officers to be harmed. And I've already answered the question, I believe, about your lighting. I know that's a big deal with you, and I understand that, but I thought I'd explain that myself. So I told you it's my decision, and that's why I made that decision. Is there another question? Yes, ma'am.
I mean, the room's tense. I can feel it.
Yes, ma'am.
The room's tense. Yes, it is tense. So the second half of this thing is, like we just started to talk about, is today, as of course it was the riots yesterday, as the Minnesota Twins and the Boston Red Sox are about to tee off at 2:30 Central or whatever time it was.
They were supposed to 1:10 was supposed to be the first pitch.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Maybe it's 2:30, 2:10 Eastern, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to happen. The stadium fills up, and suddenly there's an announcement somewhere, which we don't have. Somehow everybody was notified in the stadium. And it wasn't filled, actually, because there's COVID rules, so it was whatever amount. They say game's over, we're not playing. Sorry, the city has a response that because of the unrest and riots, civil unrest, that we expect to happen, we're not going to do it. The team kind of says, out of respect for the family, we're not going to have a game.
Which is odd, because if the kid was shot on Saturday. So if it were out of respect for the family, they could have canceled in advance before there were fans in the stands who had paid for parking. And
maybe the body cam footage didn't come out. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so I reached out to Gerry Callahan because we talk about the stuff we've been talking about. Jerry's a sports guy. He knows some of the people involved in the league, and he knows how some of the league politics go. And obviously, we all lived through last summer together here. And I just thought it was such to me, and Major League Baseball is doing whatever it can immediately to pander. The city is saying, "Oh, okay, go ahead. The streets are yours, rioters, Meanwhile, baseball is saying, "Oh, we'll cancel this, we'll cancel that, we'll cancel Georgia, we'll cancel Florida if their voting laws go. We'll cancel the states that have bathroom bills. We'll do the corporate wokeism of baseball is coming right through here. We've had baseball games during wars. We've had baseball games when there's been tumult. Historically, there was baseball games a couple of years ago at Camden Yards when there was civil unrest in Baltimore as well. You can do both things. You don't cede your streets to rioters. That is not good. And so today's game is canceled. Well, there's supposed to be 2 other games. If you're those rioters and you're those agitators, you're excited and saying, damn, we can do this for 2 more games. We can shut the games down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get in the stadium tonight. Why not? It's our stadium. Whose stadium? Our stadium. So anyway, I talked to Gerry just a few minutes ago about some of this stuff. And just for his initial reaction, and we'll jump to that right now. Okay, this has been a crazy day already, and I don't know who to talk to about any of this stuff. It's kind of because of the Red Sox and Twins thing. It's kind of sports and politics, and obviously those are the realms of Gerry Callahan. You should be listening to the Callahan podcast. Half of you came to me from the Callahan podcast, which I certainly appreciate. Jerry, what the is going on exactly?
Where do we start? Where you know what's going on? One, I think it's pretty simple, Shattuck. One incompetent cop choked.
Yep.
She panicked. She grabbed the wrong weapon. She shot a guy and killed him. And that woman, she's I assume already fired. She'll be charged, tried, perhaps convicted of something. As she should be. I mean, this is, the big responsibility you have when they give you a gun and a taser, and it's not asking too much to know the difference.
Right.
So she's going to, pay the price, and she should. But unfortunately, because of her incompetence, all these small business owners, all these residents and taxpayers and citizens of Brooklyn Center and Minneapolis will pay a big price too. And it's coming. You can feel it. Can't you, Tom? Can't you feel it right now? The storm is coming.
Oh, yeah. Oh, especially since, like you said, this is freaking egregious. I'm going to tase him. Bang, shoots him. Jesus Christ, really? Now?
But it should be simple. It's her fault. We don't have, it's not like George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, as we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
That's complicated. That ain't simple. We still can't quite decide how he died. And I mean, there's just a lot of questions. And I fear, again, for the good people in Minneapolis and the business owners, I fear that Chauvin's defense is haven't even started yet, and they're doing a good job. And they're, as far as I'm concerned, there's reasonable doubt on the cause of death. And if that's what it takes for a juror to acquit or for there to be a hung jury, then we are looking at another storm.
Oh yeah,
there's a bad storm coming. But this one should be simple. It's her fault. Can't we just see her get arrested and charged and blamed and put the blame on her? Maybe there's some affirmative action program that we'll learn about that she really couldn't pass the test, or like a physical test, or couldn't get through the obstacle course and she shouldn't have been there. Then you get a bigger issue. But if it's just a matter of competence, it's her fault. Why are we blaming the damn owner of GameStop and Sally's Beauty Shop? Why do they have to pay this price?
Well,
the answer is simple, because it pays to loot and riot and destroy things. It works, we saw it all last summer. They barely go to jail. They get bailed out in 10 minutes. The politicians all, rationalize it. Ayanna Pressley says we need unrest in the streets. Kamala Harris bails them out. And then, CNN and MSNBC spend all night rationalizing it or even glorifying it.
Well, you heard the presser with the police chief yesterday. He dared to call it a riot for a second. And the press shouted him down and said, don't call it that. Don't say that. It was a protest. Don't go there. Stop that.
It was amazing. The media, that wasn't a community activist group.
Yeah.
That was allegedly media people. And they're berating the chief. And he's like, they started it. They threw stuff at us and we fired back.
But also, Jerry, here's another thing. And we talked about this all summer. You and I talked about this. You've made it legal to riot in these cities. So now, instead of the city telling the young people to stand down, we're not going to tolerate this stuff, everybody else, the Twins have to cancel a game.
It's pathetic.
You, in front of the mob, you say, okay, we'll cede the streets to you. We're going to cancel our game. We're going to keep everybody away because we don't run the streets. You run the streets, and you can raise hell and light shit on fire and create chaos in the streets, and we'll just, sit here in the fetal position with the Red Sox hiding under the table.
It's pathetic. I mean, honestly, it's like with the MLB pulling out of Georgia. You wonder, I'm trying to imagine the thought process and, what made him do it so quickly. Rob Manfred talked to a couple of players, black players, and they weren't happy. And when I talked to Stacey Abrams, we found out the MLB checked in with her, and then boom, cancel it, hurt all the small businesses, stick your nose where it doesn't belong. And I think Rob Manfred is going to be remembered for that because it's so pathetic and so weak, and the game hasn't even been played. We're going to hear about it, and he's kind of shown his cards that he got pressured by a handful of people, and the woke mob got their way, and that's not going to go over well with baseball fans in the big picture. I think Manfred just did permanent damage to Manfred.
Oh yeah,
it feels like that with the Twins. I assume it's the Twins or MLB who they get whispers. Oh, there might be unrest. We don't want to we don't want to challenge that. We'll stay in our rooms. We'll stay in our hotel. You go out and do what you got to do. We'll be here when it's safe. It makes them again seem weak and pathetic. Baseball doesn't need any more, PR hits, and they've taken a couple of self-inflicted ones in the last few days.
Yeah, well, also they're feeding the voracious appetite of these mobs and these professional agitators. So why would they let the second game happen? Why would they let the third game happen?
I know, it's a good question. It's a good question. Like, why do they let the Atlanta Braves play? If they don't let the AllStar Game play, why can you let because it's Jim Crow and it's, this throwback to these racist days in Georgia. Why are the Braves playing? Why are the Falcons and the Hawks playing?
Right.
Why do they have anything in Georgia? Why not pull out completely? If that's how political you want to get. I mean, that thing, and I don't know if you've talked about it, that meeting on Saturday or Sunday, was it Saturday or Sunday with the 100 CEOs and heads of owners and Arthur Blank and MLB, and I mean that's it's creepy. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of authoritarians all meeting. And B, it's a harbinger, man. That is a preview of things to come. Anytime they don't like something, I mean, do you think they might have something to say about, I guess, Arkansas's, law about not giving kids puberty blockers, kind of an issue, big social, cultural issue? You think they might say?
There have been other bathroom bills through in the states as well, and some voting legislation. Florida's got voting legislation.
You get 100 corporations, 100 CEOs together. They're going to decide, and which way they'll come down on all these cultural issues. They are as woke. They not only are generally liberal, but they're also deathly afraid of the mob. So we know how they'll come down, but it is scary that they're going to suddenly become political. And if they don't like something that is going on in your state, they're going to bring the hammer down and say, you know what, that convention we were going to have there, or that that team, that tournament, that's out. See it, we're gone.
You know what? You brought up a really good point too. That the stuff that happens so quickly with Rob Manfred in the All-Star Game. The game was on. Suddenly the game is off. And the same with the Twins today. The game was on. The people are in the stadium. Suddenly it's off. It's like these debates and arguments are not aired out in public whatsoever.
That it just makes them look so pathetic, doesn't it? I mean, in the Georgia thing, I didn't know the law. You didn't know the law, right? You had to do a little homework. Right. You had to read up. Took a couple days. You heard about this. You compared it to other states, and then you realized there's nothing racist about it. There's nothing suppressing, no voter suppression there at all. I mean, it's no different than half the states in the nation. It's got more early voting and more drop boxes than most states, and absolutely zero racist. Nothing Jim Crow-ish about it. The president was lying about it. We know that now, lying repeatedly. So are lots of people in the media. It would have been easy for baseball to say, no, that's their business. That's people. That's how Georgia wants to do it. Look at IDs when you vote. Doesn't seem like a big deal to us, but we don't want to get involved. We're not taking sides. We're playing our game. Why wouldn't you do that? Manfred looks pathetic.
Yeah, and the Twins said the Twins.
Whoever made the call, the Twins look pathetic.
Well, the Twins said also out of respect for the family. So how much of this is just, displaying your virtue for the cause like Rob Manfred did, and how much of this is actually worrying about fan safety? Because the stadium's not going to be filled anyway, right?
No, that's true. I mean, it's unbelievable. The family, they cancel a lot of games in DC, the Nationals and the Wizards when what was the name? Mr. Anwar from Pakistan was murdered by the two teenage girls who aren't really going to go to prison, but hear a lot of protesting for that, a lot of threatening to pull out.
That was a joyride, Gerry. You don't cancel games over a joyride. That's what that was.
And so one incompetent cop. So you say out of respect to the city, you're going to cancel games again. They just afraid. They err on the side of cowardice is what they do. Well, there's your headline for your podcast. Erring on the side of cowardice. They sit there and they say, we cannot risk the wrath of this mob, or the wrath of the media woke, the woke media mob, or the woke corporate
or
mob.
Even scarier, Gerry. They may have taken the temperature of the team and said, how many of you are shaken up by this today? And some of the Twins could have said, I don't feel great about it. I don't know. And the management just could have said, just like with Fenway Park, when people had to walk under that sign that said Yawkey Way, and
still haunts my dreams.
We could see that. So I wonder how much of this really is public safety, and how much of this is simply this cultural wokeness. I get to, if the Chauvin thing goes sideways, then Minnesota cannot have another organized event this year. I
do not envy anyone who owns an auto parts store in Minnesota, greater Minneapolis. They're or a or a Foot Locker. They're screwed. They're screwed. They know that people have targeted them. They say free shoes. We're not going to get arrested. If we get arrested, we're bailed out in 10 minutes.
We'll be on TV with no ramifications.
We'll be on TV. We'll have people literally, the opening skit of Saturday Night Live was essentially rationalizing looting, property damage. They were anchors of a news desk, and they were black against the white. The black were saying, hey, they got insurance. It's just property. We got to do, justifying property damage. That's where we are in society. You're right.
They were stealing bread from the auto parts store.
That's right. That was AOC, yes. Stealing bread. Ayanna Pressley was, we need more civil unrest. These are the people that make it okay. They make excuses. They rationalize it. Sometimes they glorify it, romanticize it. Say MLK said it was the voice of the unheard. The rioting was the voice of the unheard. Like, was MLK talking about stealing sneakers or games?
No, I don't think he was. Well, all right. Well, so I'm going to go to the only baseball I'm going to get today is my daughter's softball practice, Gerry, where I
find it very disrespectful you're practicing on this solemn day.
Yeah, it's a great point. Out of respect, I should have. You're right. Maybe maybe instead we'll just go throw a brick through a window. We'll see. All right, we'll continue this tomorrow on the Gerry Callahan podcast.
We will, and something tells me it ain't going away for a while, my friend. This is just roiling. The storm is coming.
Yeah, we're gonna out stupid 2020 and 2021, and it's pretty much the ceremonial start is today. All right, Gerry, take it easy. I appreciate it.
All right, Chad, talk to you.
That was Gerry, fresh from his jog in the financial district of Boston. He's back in Charlestown. So I continue to have no faith that MLB or any of these corporations, Gerry talked about it, who had the big summit meeting on wokeness yesterday, which should be concerning to people, that they're all getting together and saying, you know what, we need to use our corporate conscience to make our own rules and regulations and dictate what is acceptable and what isn't, in what venues and what states, etc., and what kind of speech we'll allow on our platforms and in our venues, etc.
Right.
This ain't good, what's happening with these folks right now. And apart from, and I think that this is easy enough, we can agree that the police in Brooklyn Center, wherever they shot this kid, Wright, effed up. She obviously should get the book thrown at her and disciplined. She should be kicked out. She can't be a cop anymore, obviously. And whatever punishment is, I mean, this was sheer incompetence. Of course, the opportunists are going to make this into sheer racism. You know it's coming already. But you cannot foster and encourage more chaos and damage in the streets. I mean, is there a black community that we're not going to ruin in the name of social justice this year? Come on.
I mean, we'll see. It's only April so far. We've got some time to burn down some more cities so far.
I mean, this is what you cannot, first of all, these looters are looters. They're criminals, awful and violent. They need to be arrested and prosecuted. You can't say to the black community, hey, we care about you so much that we're going to let these people destroy your community and your businesses. Mm-hmm. That is horrific. Talk about Jim Crow.
Right.
You're letting the black community be feasted upon by violent criminals. That's crazy. You can't do that. You need to protect them.
We talked about the story.
Need to protect them.
We talked about the story in Boston this morning. Before
Yes.
all this stuff happened, there was a grandmother who was just sitting on her porch in Dorchester and was shot and killed on the porch, just sitting there. And and now everybody's like, oh well, now we'll have justice, and there's so much injustice in policing. See how unfair it is. We live in these neighborhoods. Well, yeah, who made that? The DA there has been decriminalizing everything, refuses to arrest people. We've been releasing out of jails because of COVID. We're not prosecuting crimes. I mean, we're pulling back on the police presence in the city. We're so self-congratulatory about all this social justice stuff that we're abandoning the black community. I mean, there was just a study recently that shows the vast majority of everybody, all colors, the black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, all would prefer increased police patrols, not decreased. But no, we're going with the police are the problem, and let's pull back on that. If anything, it's interesting. We have a friend who works, at a special needs high school, or I guess a behavioral needs high school, and he was saying like this whole thing about having fewer police now is so strange because these situations occur when police aren't able to restrain people, and it's easier and safer to restrain people if you have more people there. That is when, if you have multiple cops that are able to restrain a suspect, then you're less likely to need to draw your weapon because they're less likely to be able to overpower you to be trying to grab your weapon or something else. You want to be in a situation where the cops aren't afraid of the suspect that they're trying to arrest, because that's when these things happen. And that's another thing. I mean, I know we all love there to be female cops out there, but women are less physically commanding in their presence and less physically able to overpower a suspect when needed. And in this particular case, it was a woman who shot this guy, and, she probably was concerned for her safety. But maybe we shouldn't have cops that are that likely to be concerned for their safety. Maybe we should have cops that are in physical...
There were other cops there helping her, though.
She wasn't even restraining the guy. There's two male cops, getting him cuffed, and she tased it. It's so, but there is data that shows that female officers are more likely to use deadly force to shoot a suspect because they're more likely to feel threatened by the situation. So maybe female cops shouldn't go on those types of calls. Maybe there should be like really rigorous standards of physical fitness for police officers who are on these types of calls, and male, female, whoever, if you can't meet them, maybe you should have a desk job in the precinct. I don't know. Because part of the problem is that these cops are scared of not being able to go home to their families. And it's not right that we're putting them in a situation where they're scared. And it's not right for the people they're trying to arrest that they're scared. We had a listener, Paul in Florida, emailed us too about that other police shooting, the one where the guy was a lieutenant, I guess, in the Army.
It wasn't a shooting. It was a tasing.
Yeah, you're right. Not a shooting. He was pepper sprayed.
Right.
Pepper spray. But it could easily have been a shooting. It was the way the situation escalated.
Yeah, and that guy, we can put a pin, I think, in the Minnesota thing. Mm-hmm. So, but my worry is, I hope that they get swift justice for her. I think we can all agree that this was a massive F-up that tragically has ended this 20-year-old's life. You're not even an adult when you're 20 years old.
Right.
His kid, he had a couple of warrants for his. I had scrapes with the law when I was 20 as well, and it was just screwing around, stuff like that. The kid deserves to have a chance at a life.
Right.
So this sucks that this kid is dead. As far as the civil unrest goes, you can't seed the streets and let them destroy the city because it's going to start there. It's going to go to every other city. Everybody's getting vaccinated. Now imagine we weren't even opening up last year. Now we're opening up. Now there's really a good chance to raise hell in all of these cities. We can't let this happen like this. And you can't. There is no excuse for looting. Looting is people having fun, having a great time and running in. And, this kid getting shot does not equal I get new sneakers. That does not make any sense anywhere.
Right.
And I also, but side note, why are they stealing from auto parts stores? It seems to me that would be very time-consuming. You need a catalytic converter for, a 1997 Toyota Celica. What are you going to slowly go through the racks? Is the manual there to tell you where to get them?
Maybe they know people that run repair shops that are less scrupulous about where the parts are coming from.
That would make more sense. Okay.
I would assume, but or there was video of them last night looting a GameStop, coming out with armloads of video games. That's not,
Right, GameStop, and...
That's not a protest about this kid who died. That's...
No, that was... So we know that you can't have this, and these kids have no fear at all. And why should they? Now that about this other guy who was pepper sprayed. So the cops, he had no license plates according to the police. He had a temporary plate in the back window. He is an officer. He's a medic. They were pulling.
He was in uniform,
but they were pulling him over. But he kept driving for a mile or so and didn't pull over until he got to a got station because he didn't want the cops to rub him out.
Right.
In the middle of a cornfield.
Go in a well-lit area.
So anyway, at least one of the cops was way the hell out of line the moment they were. Certainly, in the very least, had a bad attitude.
Right. And let it be noted, they have not charged him with anything. They have no...
Right, they didn't charge him, but they pepper sprayed him. They said something like the lightning's coming at you or whatever.
You get ready to ride the lightning or something.
One of these cops came off like a total punk, and I think he's been let go. Didn't they whack him?
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, and the guy, when they were like, why won't you get out of the car? He's like, honestly, I'm scared to get out of the car. And they said to him, well, you should be. Geez, calm down. He hasn't done anything. He has the temporary plates taped onto the car. Calm down.
He's a guy in uniform. Just give it a second here. The guy, he didn't comply with the officers either. But, I just, come on, guys. I don't know what it is where I think you need to... I don't know. In that case, bring in backup who aren't pissed off. How about that?
Yeah.
Start with that. If you're, why don't you install a friggin' pissed off-o-meter in all those cruisers, and anybody who is redlining doesn't engage with the public for a little bit until they cool down. So that guy, guy is sued. Did he win? I assume
he's sued for civil rights. His civil rights were violated, which I think is fair.
He'll get damages, though, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I think he should. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that both of these are both, not great looks on the part of the police department, and
and it happens. A bunch of times a year, there are not great looks by the police department
to black people and white people, by the way.
Of course, yes, no, absolutely. Cops aren't perfect. They screw up too. They have got f-ups too, just like everybody else. But this is not a pandemic of killings by the police. This is not what this is. Okay,
right.
This, if anything, this shooting by the woman is talk about. Now there, you could look at some police reform if you dare look at the kind of police reform that might make people uncomfortable. But we'll see.
Like having fewer women officers.
Alice, you said that. I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to say those words.
Well, sometimes there are trade-offs. If women officers.
Dang. Julian Edelman retired from football.
Yeah, I saw that. If there are, if there's evidence that female officers are shooting more people, and we don't want to have more people shot, maybe that's something that we should consider. maybe there's a trade-off there. Maybe the gender equity in the police department should take a back seat to the shooting of people during arrests. I don't know. What do I know? Or are we just suggesting that all these, women officers need to be trained more or something? I don't know.
Tase people with the taser going forward. We shouldn't have to put this memo out, but only use the taser when tasing, okay? Don't tase people with the revolver. All right, so we're going to have to go to softball very soon. Mm-hmm. With our daughter, which will be the only organized sport we'll be seeing this evening, since the Red Stockings will not be playing in Minnesota because looters have to destroy the city.
Well, actually, it's funny too because some of the news stories, like you said, the city kind of said it was because of the unrest, and the Twins said it was because they wanted to, pay respects to the family by canceling the game, and
5 minutes.
And so it's interesting. So some of the news stories that were put out on Twitter had that as a headline, that it was because of the unrest that the games were being canceled. Mm-hmm. And social justice people were yelling back at these news stories on Twitter saying, how dare you? You need to correct this headline. It's not because of the unrest. There was no unrest. There was no riot. It's absolutely out of line. It was done out of respect for the family. And that's what the team said. And you need to take this down and change it because this is so disrespectful to our community who's in mourning right now. But
great.
So
great. Let's have a perfect sequel to 2020. 2021, we'll do it bigger, louder, and stupider than we did the first time. All right, Alice, I'm going to move along here to a couple pieces of audio we've got to get. This is Mehdi Hassan, who's a jerk on MSNBC, who had Dr. Fauci on. I love the guys who ask Fauci these leading questions where you can sense Fauci salivating during the question.
Eating and drinking indoors in restaurants and bars, is that okay now?
No, it's still not okay.
F you. What is this moronic troll doing? Can you imagine? No, still not okay. Who the freak are you? Who are you, you moron? You've been wrong about everything. You're a total and utter jerk. We have a vaccine. We got it. We can't get the virus now. We're leaving now, shrimp, okay? We're going. You can say whatever you want and tell us that you're not comfortable with this or that, or kiss up to Rachel Maddow. We're going now. Bye-bye.
For the simple reason that the level of infection, the dynamics of infection in the community are still really disturbingly high. Just yesterday, there were close to 80,000 new infections, and we've been hanging around 60, 70, 75,000.
Flatten the infections. I remember them saying that last year. Mm-hmm. It was not about infections. It was about people dying and the hospitals being overrun, and we needed a couple of weeks. Remember that, the little megalomaniac? That's what you were saying last year. Screw you. Screw that guy. I hate him, Alice. I'm sorry. I'm allowed to hate. And
also, it doesn't have a bearing with reality. And this was one of the things from the beginning of the pandemic is you can't put in measures that are going to be not followed at all. You have to strike some kind of balance where you give advice that's actually something that people might follow, because if you take it too far, they'll just ignore everything you say.
Right.
And people are already eating indoors at restaurants. We've eaten indoors at restaurants before we were vaccinated. So right. Obviously we're going to keep going to eat at restaurants now that we're vaccinated. So maybe he should take a look around, realize that restaurants are open. I'm pretty sure there's indoor dining everywhere in the country now.
I've begun taking the law into my own hands, Alice.
Have you?
At the supermarket, yes. I now walk down the aisle in any direction I want to. I'm no longer going by the arrows. I am a vaccinated
You're
human
joining
being.
Everybody because nobody was following.
I am a vaccinated human being. Oh, no, I would.
I was following that. I still am following. I don't mind the direction thing that much, but I've started to push the limits with the mask. I'll take it off on my way out the door of the supermarket before I'm actually there.
Ooh, living dangerously.
And I'll walk in without it on, and then I'll kind of put it on as I get indoors, just to show that I'm.
The police are on edge, Alice. I don't want you tased or worse. All right, so the other thing we're going to play, this is a teacher from the San Marcos School District talking to the kids on a Zoom meeting. Is there part of me that is in love with this teacher? It's possible.
Themselves out. The haters did. They are forced to bring awareness to the situation that they are in because other people put them in that situation.
My question is, in your case, where is the white student union? Because we need all races
You
for
don't
equality.
need a white student union, Jake.
Oh.
You get everything.
You get everything. Can you imagine? And then she goes on to, she's got a word or two for the parents of these students.
Your parent wants to talk to me about their profession and their opinion on their profession. I would love to hear that. I know very little about anything else in the world other than education, okay? However...
What particular class is this, by the way? I think we've gone off of the curriculum a little bit.
If your parent wants to come talk to me about how I'm not doing a good enough job in distance learning based on what you need as an individual, just dare them to come at me. Because I'm so sick to my stomach of parents trying to tell educators how to do their job. I have never once gone to a doctor's appointment and tried to tell my medical health provider how to treat me. You know why? Because I know nothing about that. I didn't get my degree in medicine. I am going off. I'm sorry. This is my go off period.
Yeah. No, actually, this is class time, Alyssa Pirro, who I may or may not be in love with now. First of all, I think it's a little harder for us to try to talk doctor than it is for us to know what a teacher does.
Yeah. Also, I do talk to my doctor about options, by the way. If I read something or, we'll discuss the treatment options openly together. I don't just go to the doctor and say, do whatever you do. And I don't need to know. I don't know anything about being a doctor. You just do your thing. Who doesn't do that? Who, when you're in the hospital or your kid is in the hospital, doesn't talk about what the doctors are doing and discuss the options and weigh them? You just let them do whatever they want and do their thing. So obviously, if you discuss with the school and with the teacher what you think as a parent, because you're the customer buying the service from the school system.
You leave Alyssa Pirro alone, Alice.
Yeah.
All right, so this next piece of audio, I was going to make the center piece of audio for the show. This was featured in my Substack today. Mm-hmm. This is something I wanted to spend a whole lot of time on, but unfortunately we don't have much time. But this is a masterful idea, suggestion, plan, angle of attack from Brian Stelter on Fox News. This is one for the ages.
It's really important to see all these TV anchors, personalities showing themselves getting the shot. We've seen a lot of vaccine selfies from lots of folks at lots of different networks. It's been really inspiring to see.
Inspiring to who? Who's inspired? Is it Brian Stelter who's inspired? Wow, this is inspiring. Wolf just got a pancreas exam in front of us here. Wow, that is incredible. Anderson Scooper just got a skin graft. It's really inspiring. It's who looks up to these people and says, you know what? They are so far superior in every way. I'm just going to emulate what they do. Who does that? Who says it's because Don Lemon gets plastered every New Year's Eve on CNN? Oh, you know what? Let's get plastered this New Year's Eve. Don Lemon's one of our betters. He'll know. We'll just do what he does.
The Today Show even brought the co-host outside for a live group
where the people are. How generous of the Today Show.
Vaccination this week. And Rachel Maddow on Friday on MSNBC talked about how she was really fearful of the needle, really worried about it. And yet it was important to get the shot, and she did. And there she is talking about it on air.
What a hero. First of all, that's horse bleep, obviously. Second of all, can you imagine? Don't worry. I, like you, I don't love needles either. But you know what? I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope the Fauci ouchie goes quickly. And there you go. I did it. I did it for you. It's not an accomplishment to sit down and have a nurse stick a needle in you as if you've done something. It's not an accomplishment.
Right.
It's nothing to... It's just not a miracle on the Hudson stuff here. You did nothing.
Yeah, Trump had more to do with you getting the shot than you getting the shot.
I say all of that to make the following point. Where are Tucker and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham? Where's Ainsley Earhart and Steve Ducey and Brian Kilmeade? Where are the biggest stars on Fox?
They're getting ratings, Tucker, talking about issues and not about, the Hutu, whatever her name is, and the crew of Al Roker, standing in the Rockefeller Center getting shots.
getting vaccinated. I get it's a personal choice. I get that's between, the hosts and their healthcare provider. But everybody else is doing it, right, Matt? I mean, all across television, all these anchors are rolling up their sleeves. Why do you think we haven't seen the biggest stars on Fox News get vaccinated or show us their vaccine selfies?
I think mostly you're an idiot, Brian, as a matter of fact, and I'm going to be leaving now, but thank you very much. That was very useful. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, we are off to softball practice, guys. We will see you a bit. Thanks for the Substack subscribing, by the way. You can subscribe for free, or there are platinum level paying plans as well.
Right, so it's like some of the posts are just for paid subscribers,
exactly,
but there's a bunch that are for everybody.
I won't hassle your email too much, I promise.
You can also find us on Twitter, that is @BurnBarrelPod. We're on Gab and Parler @BurnBarrelPodcast on those platforms. We're also at Facebook.com/BurnBarrelPodcast, or we are Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel on YouTube. You can find the whole channel there with all the videos, and you can like and subscribe and leave comments on the videos. We'll talk back to you. And as a matter of fact, you can subscribe anywhere where you like to listen to podcasts. You'll always get the new episodes right away. Or shoot us an email. That's burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com.